The Department of Veterans Affairs recognizes 9 groups of military members and veterans for VA home loan benefit eligibility. In the following explanation, active duty denotes full-time military service, distinct from reserve or National Guard service. Group 1, those who served during any of the 3 specific wartime periods: World War II, Korean War, and Vietnam War. Veterans who served in active duty capacity for at least 90 days during World War II, the Korean War, or Vietnam War, and received an honorable discharge. Important dates to remember for veterans who fall under Group 1 are as follows: World War II, September 16, 1940 to July 25, 1947. Korean War was June 27, 1950 to January 31, 1955. Vietnam War was August 5, 1964 to May 7, 1975. February 28, 1961 for veterans who served in country before August 5, 1964. Group 2, those who served after September 25, 1940 and were discharged or released from active duty for a service-connected disability. In this group, it doesn't matter how long a veteran may have been on active duty, a day or a whole career. If discharged for a service-connected disability, that veteran is automatically eligible for the Home Loan Benefit Program. Group 3, those who served during peacetime after 25 September 1940. You are eligible if you served 181 continuous active duty days during peacetime after September 25, 1940, unless you were separated or discharged from a previous qualifying period of active duty. In other words, an individual who did not serve 181 days during peacetime in a single continuous period may still be eligible if they were discharged or separated from a previous period of active duty that did qualify. Suppose Samuel served 100 days of active duty during peacetime in his initial enlistment, but was then discharged. Later, he re-enlists and serves an additional 100 days of active duty during peacetime. In total, Samuel served 200 days of active duty, with 100 of those days being in 2 separate but qualifying periods of peacetime service. He would meet the eligibility requirement for the VA home loan benefit because he satisfied the 181-day requirement through 2 separate qualifying periods of service. For clarification, here are the official dates of peacetime in the United States in recent generations. Post-World War II peacetime, July 26, 1947 to June 26, 1950. Post-Korean War peacetime, February 1, 1955 to August 4, 1964. Post-Vietnam War peacetime, May 8, 1975 to August 1, 1990. So for service in those periods to be eligible for the VA home loan benefit, the veteran must have served 181 continuous days as active duty and received a discharge that was other than dishonorable. As of the time this content was produced, there's no post-Gulf War peacetime since Congress has not specified an end date to the Gulf War that started August 2, 1990. Group 4, those who serve or served in active duty capacity during Gulf War period that began August 2, 1990. There are 3 distinctions in this group. You meet the minimum active duty service requirement if you serve for A. At least 90 days on active duty during the Gulf War period. B. The shorter of 24 continuous months of active duty, or the full period for which you were called or ordered to active duty. Or C. At least 90 days if you were discharged for a hardship or a reduction in force. Let's break this down a little. The Gulf War period that began August 2, 1990 is considered ongoing because Congress has not officially declared an end date. So in this period that spanned over 30 plus years, some have served and discharged from service and yet others are active duty right now. For anyone serving right now in active duty capacity, the requirement is a minimum of at least 90 days served. What about those who served during this wartime period but already got out? For example, say 2019 to 2023. For those veterans who already got out, if they did so without serving 24 months, unfortunately, they don't satisfy the requirement. For example, if Maria served less than 24 months somewhere after August 2, 1990, then got out for any reason other than disability, even with an honorable discharge, she wouldn't have VA entitlement, whereas Craig, who is serving right now and has been on active duty for just 90 days, would be eligible. For both, their service was or is in the wartime period which began August 2, 1990. Wait, what? As crazy as it sounds, Jennifer could have been active duty for say 12 months, used her VA entitlement to buy a home during those months, and then got out. But because she had left before the 24-month mark, she no longer has VA entitlement. Keep in mind that it would be unusual and unlikely for a service member to leave active duty after just 12 months, unless they were perhaps medically discharged or requested a personal hardship, and was then discharged for the convenience of the government. Just so you know, the VA has different rules for counting basic training time for those in active duty enlistment compared to those in Reserve or National Guard enlistment. For someone enlisted in active duty, their basic training period is included in the 90-day rule. However, for Reserve or National Guard, it's not counted the same way. This is because Reserve or National Guard members are classified as being on active duty for training, rather than active duty. Therefore, their basic training time only contributes towards their Reserve or National Guard duty obligations, which will be discussed next. Group 5. This group consists of those who served in the Selective Reserve. The Selective Reserve includes the Army National Guard, Army Reserve, Air National Guard, Air Force Reserve, Navy Reserve, Marine Corps Reserve, and Coast Guard Reserve. These members need to have actively participated in military service for a total of 6 years. If they've completed their service and are no longer serving, then their discharge must have been nothing less than honorable. Take note that for retirement pay in the Selective Reserve, each year served must have been a credible year resulting in at least 50 points earned. But that's not the rule for VA home loan eligibility. You simply need to have earned 16 or more points each year for those 6 years. There are 15 automatic membership points earned each year just for participating, and 1 point is earned for each 4-hour drill period attended. Considering 12 weekend drills per year such as battle assembly or unit training assembly for example, aside from the 2-week annual training each year, the service member would typically accumulate 48 points to add to their automatic 15. So for each reservist, attending 16 points shouldn't be an issue based on that customary schedule. However, there are exceptions for both Reserve and National Guard members that trump the 6-year rule, making it possible to obtain a VA loan much sooner. These are also known as expanded eligibility rules. Reserve or National Guard members who have been activated under federal service, also known as Title 10 orders, are eligible for a VA loan after 90 days. If no longer in service, then the discharge must be honorable. Time served in multiple different missions can be added together to arrive at the total of 90 days, meaning the activation doesn't have to be for one straight 90-day mission. It's important for reservists to know that they do not get activated by a state governor under Title 32 orders, nor does active duty for training count for active duty. If activated under Title 10, the reservist would receive a DD-214. In contrast, reservists who are never activated for federal active duty but faithfully served 6 credible years receive a Certificate of Discharge, not a DD-214. In another module in this video series, we discuss gathering the right service records to support your application for VA Home Loan Benefit entitlement. Just like reservists, National Guard members also must have completed 6 credible years of service. However, a special exemption enacted by law in 2021 exists for Guard members if activated to full-time National Guard duty under Title 32 orders with a COE issued on or after January 5, 2021 for a cumulative total of 90-plus days, of which at least 30 are continuous, i.e. under one order. Then the member can be eligible for the VA Home Loan Benefit. This counts retroactively for service anytime prior to the effective date of January 5, 2021. This does not include inactive duty, such as monthly drills, nor does it include basic or initial training. Such orders that may make a Guard member eligible are those that are typically in support of a state or national event such as COVID support, special border duty, or disaster relief. For both reservists and Guard members, those who completed less than 6 years may still be eligible for the VA home loan without ever being activated, if discharged for a service-connected disability. What we've described so far refers to service members who were never in active duty but began their service by participating in Reserves or National Guard while working as a civilian. In many cases, however, a service member may have enlisted for regular active duty and then, after serving the time appointed and obtaining an honorable discharge, went into the Reserves or Guard. Such a veteran can be eligible for the VA loan based on his or her active duty service that preceded Reserve or Guard duty, without regard for time spent in the Reserves or Guard. We've been talking about the weekend members who hold civilian jobs for the most part, but it's worth mentioning that there are also full-time reservists and full-time National Guard members. For example, Active Guard Reserve or ARG are full-time and enjoy the same benefits as a U.S. Army soldier. Full-time Guard members could be under Title 10 or Title 32 orders and would eventually receive a DD-214 or NGB-22 and NGB-23. Full-time reservists would always be under Title 10 orders and would receive a DD-214. As we conclude the details for selective reserve and National Guard members, please note that the 6 years required don't have to be consecutive. There can be breaks in the middle, and also those years can be a mix of reservist duty and Guard duty, totaling 6 years. But partial active duty cannot be added to Reserve or National Guard duty to satisfy service period requirements. Group 6. Group 6 consists of spouses of deceased veterans who are eligible to use the Veterans Home Loan entitlement in certain cases. First and foremost, the spouse must be considered a surviving spouse and not a widow or widower only. In order to be considered a surviving spouse for VA home loan eligibility purposes, the spouse must be in receipt of DIC, which is an acronym for Dependency and Indemnity Compensation. If the spouse is not receiving DIC, he or she is not eligible for the VA home loan benefit. In some rare cases, eligible spouses have never applied for DIC and should. So what makes a spouse eligible for DIC? The veteran must have died while in service or from a service-related injury or disability. Even if the veteran did not die directly from service-connected disabilities, DIC benefits and subsequently VA home loan eligibility might also be available to the surviving spouse in some circumstances. To qualify, the deceased veteran must have been receiving or entitled to receive VA compensation for a service-connected disability that was rated as 100% for at least 10 years immediately preceding death, or since the veteran's release from active duty and for at least 5 years immediately preceding death, or for at least 1 year immediately preceding death if the veteran was a former prisoner of war, POW. Now for those spouses who are eligible based on these rules, they must have never remarried or if remarried, must not have done so before the age of 57 or before December 16, 2003. If you're unsure whether your particular circumstances make you eligible to use your surviving spouse home loan entitlement, please reach out to your VA loan educator. Group 7. Service members of the 4 military service academies are also eligible for the VA home loan benefit. These are undergraduate colleges that provide education and training to develop future commissioned officers of the U.S. Armed Forces. The 4 military academies are West Point, Naval Academy, Air Force Academy, and Coast Guard Academy. Graduates of the service academies receive a commission as an officer in the U.S. Armed Forces and are obligated to serve a minimum of 5 years. However, service in the 4 academies provides eligibility after 2 full years, even if the student veteran did not graduate. For example, Nancy applied for and was selected to the Air Force Academy because she wanted to support our nation after the start of the Gulf War in 1990. But the war was so short that after 2 full years, she decided that the Air Force wasn't for her. She requested a discharge and was honorably discharged from the Air Force. Later, she applied for and was approved for a VA COE and could use the VA loan for her first home purchase. Group 8. Public Health Service Commissioned Corps Officers. While the U.S. PHS Commissioned Corps is not an armed service, public health service officers enjoy many of the same benefits as their counterparts in the uniformed services. Active duty PHS officers can apply to determine eligibility after 90 days of continuous active duty. For purposes of the laws administered by the Department of Veterans Affairs, VA, United States PHS officers are deemed to be veterans. Group 9. Merchant Marine Seamen who served in active ocean-going service during World War II from December 7, 1941 to August 15, 1945, and who served on block ships in support of Operation Mulberry are also eligible for the VA home loan benefit. In closing, you should know that if you do not meet the standard minimum service requirements for any of the groups we discussed, you may still be eligible if you were discharged due to 1. Hardship, or 2. The convenience of the government, or 3. Reduction in force, or 4. Certain medical conditions, or 5. A service-connected disability. Thank you for your service, and be sure to reach out to your VA loan educator for clarification on eligibility pertaining to your individual service.